Hello, it's Peter again from Get in Touch Books. I want to talk to you today about the age of the specialist. What do I mean by the specialist? Well, I believe the age of the specialist is over. In the old days, the idea was that, in fact, until quite recently, the idea was that if you wanted to be successful or get on in life, you specialised. You took something and you learnt it to a very high level, and then you were marketable in the marketplace. You were able to sell your skills because you had skills that other people didn't have to the same level. And this is still true in certain areas like professions and medicine and law and things like that. But for many, many people in the workplace now, it's very different. Today, you don't need to be a specialist. In fact, it's much better to be a generalist, to have lots of skills at a lower level. And for many people, to spend an awful lot of time becoming very good at something is counterproductive because they don't actually get all that good at it. They want to be good at something, but they don't make it. So then they do a job at a certain mediocre level and remain not a specialist but a generalist. It's far better to learn things in many, many areas to a lesser level. And then you're more employable and you're more adaptable. To have some skills is great, but to be a specialist in one area at the exclusion of everything else is not great. In the modern world, the education system has encouraged specialism, getting really, really good at one thing. But actually, that's not really what the modern world needs. It needs people who can adapt from one thing to another, who can do one job and then maybe 3 or 4 years later adapt to something totally different. Because the ever-changing world, and as it's accelerating, it's getting faster and faster, requires less and less specialism because machines, computers, etc. can take all the specialism out of things. Creativity is still a form of specialism that people encourage, but even then, creativity in a broad set of subjects is probably much better than creativity in one. I know this goes completely against the modern thinking and people are encouraged to specialise in all sorts of stuff. And education especially encourages people to focus down on one area. But for the vast majority of the workforce, it's not practical. They won't actually increase their income very much by being specialists. What they will increase their income is being generalists, being able to go from one thing to another, being reasonably talented, reasonably good at 4, 5, 6, 7 things. I mean, the modern world requires you in many ways to do this. And bringing up a family is very different from having a job. And it's quite difficult to be very specialist at both. You bring up a family, that's one skill. You have a job, that's another skill. Your job will change over years. That skill needs to change as society changes. I've always thought that a far better way of dealing with education for many, many people is to have a practical university where students can learn a whole range of things at a lower level, not spending 3 years on one subject, but maybe 2 months on one subject, and then moving on to another and another. And these subjects can be very verified and completely at odds from one another. I mean, one minute you might be learning carpentry, the next you're learning cooking, the next you might be learning outdoor pursuits, or people management, or computer skills, or sports. All these things have places in the workplace. All these things can be used in the workplace. And the more generalist you are, not only are you more employable, but you're also more able to cope with society. You're more able to cope with life. You can save so much money as well as earn it because you have so many skills. I mean, financial management is another area that should be learnt by everybody at a lower level. That would take a great deal of the world out of poverty. But of course it won't happen because why? Because people don't want that, or people who run society and run education don't want people to have financial management. If they have financial management, it undermines their own financial strength. So power is about specialism, power is about control, power is about keeping everyone in a very tight straitjacket. But for the individual, for society as a whole, real power comes and releases people from that by being generalists, by varying their skills, by constantly training through lifelong learning, doing more and more and more different things to a lower level, but to a more effective level. So that's my eye on the future. I actually think specialism had had its day. And in the future, it's going to be about generalism, about a high level of skills and a different type of market for the modern world and the time to come for the next few generations. This is Peter Bull here from Get in Touch Books. Thank you for listening, and I hope to speak to you soon. Bye.